The power of the youth is the commonwealth for the entire world. The faces of the young people are the faces of our past, our present, and our future. No segment in the society can match with the power, idealism, enthusiasm, and the courage of the young people, said Kailash Satyarthi. Good evening, everyone. Today, we have organized the meeting We for Youth for equipping teachers, parents, and the youth so that there may be a positive impact on the next generation. The team members are looking forward on passing on good values to the next generation. We are participating in one such meeting in which Dr.Roy B.Kuruvilla will be talking about stress and how to handle it in daily life. Now, I invite Mrs. Angel Ravindran to propose the welcome address, please.
On behalf of the We for Youth team members, I welcome you all to this important meeting. As all of you know, the topic that will be discussed today, how to manage stress in daily life. Is stress affecting us all? According to the American Institute of Stress, 77% of people experience stress that affects their physical health. 73% of people experience stress that affects their mental health. In fact, stress is the #1 health concern of high school students, and 80% of adults feel the stress at work. If you're living with high levels of stress, you're putting your entire well-being at risk. Stress plays havoc on your emotional equilibrium as well as your physical health. It narrows your ability to think clearly, function effectively, and enjoy life. You may think that there is nothing much you can do about it, but don't worry. Dr. Roy B.Kuruvilla will give practical insights to break the hold stress has on your life, so you can be happier, healthier, and more productive. A few words of introduction about Dr. Roy B.Kuruvilla. He is a specialist in orthopedic surgery and hails from Kerala, South India. He has 25 years postgraduate experience in orthopedic surgery, which includes 15 years of service in the Middle East. He has worked as a lecturer and consultant in India. He was a specialist in orthopedic surgery in a 100-bedded multi-speciality hospital in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. From 2012 onwards, he is working as a specialist in orthopedic surgery in Ahalia Hospital, Musafa, Abu Dhabi, UAE. A hearty welcome to you, Dr. Roy B.Kuruvilla. We are eagerly looking forward to hearing your words of wisdom. Welcome to all the participants who are eagerly waiting to listen to the words of wisdom to this very important topic. Welcome you one and all.
We have this website, We for Youth, where we have many videos, many encouraging words especially for the youth, and also for the parents and teachers who are willing and are on the field to equip the youth. The youth is the hope of our future. So now I would like to invite Dr. Kuruvilla to please go on with the meeting.
Good evening to everyone who is here. Thank you very much, ma'am, for the kind words of introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening. As introduced, I am Dr. Roy B.Kuruvilla. I'm presently in Abu Dhabi, UAE. It's a privilege for me to be with you this evening with this beautiful topic, managing stress. This topic has been a little stressful to me I'm not sure whether I have done justice to the topic, but in the end, we will have a bit of time of interaction, and probably we can explain things later more. I have been preparing for this topic since ever since ma'am gave me the invitation. Actually, we had a little bit of confusion about selecting the topic, but then I thought I will stick to this for the reasons which I will mention now. I was introduced to V for Youth by my close friend and classmate, Dr. Shibu, who is a consultant ophthalmologist in Trichy. And a special thanks to Shibu for this privilege. Thank you, ma'am Angel Ravindran, for the kind invitation and the kind words of. Through the website of V for Youth, it says build to help young people to reach their full potential. I was so excited by that because I myself am part of an organization called the Intercollegiate Prayer Fellowship. It's a Christian organization, but our motto is impacting the next generation. So that is very much in keeping with the mission of V for Youth. That's why I was so excited to be part of this. There was a quotation from Theodore Roosevelt, which says, build our youth for the future. All the same is our treasure. Our nation is going to be founded on the strengths of our youth. So any problem which affects our youth, any difficulty for them will be reflected in the health of the nation also. So all the more reason why we have this evening together and with this special topic. I want to welcome one and all to this topic once again. I have my aunt also joining from Ernakulam, Miss Mary George. Warm welcome to you, Auntie. Thank you very much for joining. And this is going to be an open session. Any one of you can please unmute and speak. If you have a question, you can stop me in between. If you want to go back to a slide, you can do that. Or if you want to do it in the end, it's fine. Feel absolutely free because I have no reservations in any of those things. You can stop me for a question or a clarification, or even you can even disagree with me in any of the aspects. Most welcome. So let's go into the topic as such for today. The topic that we have selected is managing stress. Manage stress in daily life. Why I chose this topic is for some reasons. The theme or the mission which V for Youth projects is to help young people to reach their full potential. What you see in the picture is a bullet cartridge. You can see that this is the whole cartridge. Even I thought a bullet is a bullet in itself, but a bullet doesn't come in itself. It comes as a cartridge. And what you see in the tip, number one, is the bullet as such. The whole rest of it is the cartridge which projects or shoots the bullet. And without all these things, without number 2 and 3 and 4, a bullet is useless. So projecting the importance of guiding our youths is very important. Our youth is number one, the bullet. They have to go and hit the target, but only with the help of a cover, an envelope, the detonator, and the base. So 2, 3, and 4 are very important in taking one to the destination. So the bullet has a role, the cartridge has an equally important role. Many times we fail to understand this or we overlook this fact. Now, why I took this topic is because of this. What you see in the slide is an attachment notice. If you can read Malayalam, on the left side you can see that it's a notice which was posted outside a house in Kerala last month. Why is it important? I'll tell you. A 20-year-old girl lost her life because of this notice. You know, this girl was doing a second year in bachelor's. She was studying in college. Her father was working abroad. He had some debts. He had taken a 10 lakhs rupees loan from one of the banks there, and he defaulted. He was not able to pay it. So the bank, after giving notice, they attached this attachment notice in front of their house. This girl was so much disturbed after seeing this notice. She told her father somehow to get rid of that notice, but it's not possible because it's attached by an office. So you have to remove it officially only. So nobody knew what was happening. She one day went to the college, came back, closed her room. When she is going out and coming in, she is seeing the attachment notice. It was probably giving her a lot of stress. She went into the room and ended her life. I just want you to think about this. Why it happened. It touched me so much. Why it had to happen. Why a young, promising girl was a good student, very young in her prime youth, had to end her life. And did she gain anything? Did her family gain anything? Did the society gain anything? The answer is a plain and big no. Nobody gained anything by this death. You know, by her dying, the debt will not be written off because the debt was taken by her father. Maybe the government will have some compassionate grounds on this. That's a different matter altogether. But then the whole purpose of doing that was absolutely useless. This is why I chose this topic. Stress was the reason why she had to end her life. So I thought we will go into some basic aspects of stress in general, and then few words about practical aspects of how we are facing stress every day, and finally some words about how to combat them, how to face them. That will be the plan of our discussion today evening. And, once again, I welcome you all into this. Is the topic relevant? Yes, very much so. If you see India, especially if you see the state of Kerala, which is my state, highest rate of homicide, highest rate of suicide, highest rate of drug and narcotic abuse, highest rate of college and professional college drops, young children being addicts, they are taken by the police, they are arrested for drug trafficking and what. On the other side, we have many young people dying very young out of medical reasons. Heart attack at the age of 23, 28. It is no more a story, it's a fact. Fitness freaks, young fitness freak at the age of 40 suddenly lost his life for unknown reasons. If you go to the root cause, all that we can say is stress. Stress. So let's go to some basics about stress. I'm going to speak about a little bit of physics, a little bit of biology, and that will help you to understand what is stress. What is stress? Stress is a deforming force. In physics, it's called a force. The force which is acting on a direction is stress. It's a deforming force. Deforming means it changes the shape or the structure of the object. So there is an object, there is a force acting on the object. The force demands a change in the object. There is often a space and time limit. I will explain all this. This is called a cantilever. You can see a free bar, an iron bar or whatever, any metal for that matter, fixed on one end and free to move on the other end. This is called a cantilever. Now, this is the basic of study of stress in physics. This bar can move up or move down depending on if you're applying a tension. A tension means you're pulling it up. A compression means you're pushing it down. So there is a deforming force which acts on the free end of a cantilever, which results in change in the shape or position of the object. This is the very simple example of a stress. When a force is applied, it goes, when you're pushing it down, it goes down. Or you're pulling it up, it goes up. And when the force is removed, it resumes its original position or shape. This property is called elasticity. Elasticity. Elasticity means the property of an object to come back to its original shape or size once the deforming forces are removed. Little more of physics. This graph is indicating something called the elasticity. It's called the Young's modulus. It was described by an English physician and physicist named Thomas Young. And he describes a property of any material for that matter, but mainly metals. It's a measure of the ability of a material to withstand deformation under tension or compression and come back to its original shape once the force is removed. He describes something called a stiffness coefficient. Don't go into the details of all that if you hate physics. It is E is equal to stress by strain. It's constant for a material, meaning it is for iron it is 1, for aluminum it is another value, for zinc it is another value. For each material, the value is different. Now, if you see the graph represents stress on one side on the y-axis and strain on the x-axis. If you see the graph, it shows an almost linear relationship, meaning when the force goes up, the deformation goes up. Force goes up, deformation goes up. It rises on a steady plane until a point, up to a point which is called the yield strength. And suddenly you can see that the graph buckles. This shows buckling of the metal. As you can see, if you take an iron bar and try to bend it, you bend it, then you remove your hand, it goes back. Then again you try to bend it, it goes down. Then you remove your hand, it goes back. But beyond a point, there is a buckling, beyond which it does not retain its original shape or position. After which the relationship is erratic and the deformation is much more than the force applied, meaning the metal is going to fail. Up to another point called the ultimate strength, where the metal is just about to fail terribly. And if you keep on increasing the force, even on a lesser force, it fails and fails and fails and fails and breaks. So there is a linear relationship to start with. If the force continues, it buckles to an extent, but it still holds on for a moment, for a period of time. But if the force still goes on, it fails and it breaks. This is true for everything, for all materials and even for human beings. We have a limit. This is called the physiological limit. Anyone can be bent up to a limit, beyond which they will fail and break. And this is different for each material. This is different from person to person also. Why is it important? It is important because it is very essential to understand your elastic modulus. You know, I have a limit, you have a limit, my limit is not the same as yours. Each one has a different physiological limit beyond which you and I will fail. Can you tell some examples of stresses in life? Yeah, of course. Not one. You have hundreds. An exam is a stress. This topic for presentation for me was a stress. If you have a competition in school or college or community, it's a stress. A task or a stage performance is a stress. You have a deadline to meet at workplace, it's a stress. These are all maybe not repeated every day, but a stress which is being repeated every day for a laborer, for a manual laborer, making both ends meet, bringing food for his wife and 3 children is a stress every day. Every morning, he has to find a job. He has to get money to feed his family. So that's a stress. Everywhere we find stress. How do we meet this? That's what we are going to do. We are going to discuss. Now, stress is there in all realms. Students think stress is there only for students. It's not only for students. You look at any walk in life, if you are a young adult, if you have no job, it's stressful. If you have a job, it's stressful. If you are employed and not married, getting married is another stress. To move on future, if you have family and children, looking after them is stress. At any point of time, you have stress. So this is nothing unusual. This is part of life. If you have a speech to give, a program to anchor, and even to coordinate, it's a stress. I worked in NIT Calicut as campus doctor for a short while. I like something there very much. You know, in NIT, there is no promotion for the teachers. If you join as a lecturer, you know, normally outside, if you join as a lecturer, after 10 years, you become an assistant professor. After 5 years, you become a reader, and then you become a professor. You get a promotion according to your seniority. In NIT, it's not like that. If you are a lecturer, and if you continue there, you can die or you can retire as a lecturer because there is no promotion. If there is a post of assistant professor, and if they decide on choosing 5 people, they will announce an interview, an open interview, and it will be announced in the newspapers. So what will happen? You as a student, or you as a teacher, you as a senior teacher or a lecturer, if you want to appear for that interview, you have to go an open candidate. And you may or may not be selected for the post. That's why I said you can die, you can retire as a lecturer. Because each post is selected not according to the seniority, according to your qualifications and credentials. So what we find here, these stresses that we have is part of everyone's life. What happens when you undergo stress? This is something about biology and human physiology. The result is called an adrenergic response. When you face a stress, suddenly the adrenal hormones are secreted from your adrenal glands. You know, there's an axis which goes from the pituitary, from the hypothalamus to the pituitary to the adrenal. Suddenly there is a surge of adrenal hormone which causes you to fight, fright, or flight. I'm sure some of you have seen this picture. It is one wild buffalo being attacked by a pride of 8 lions. You know who won? Yeah, of course, not the lions, but the buffalo. Because the buffalo was fighting for its life. It had to use all its potentials, all its strength in a fight, fright, or flight. So that's a fight, fright, and flight. The picture of a buffalo being attacked by a pride of 8 lions. The buffalo won because it had that fight reaction. Now, if fight doesn't work, you cannot fight and escape a situation. What you will do? You get afraid. You're having a fright reaction, and then it results in a flight. This is what helpless animals do. Helpless human beings also do the same thing. Now, a result of stress is an adrenergic response which triggers all the emergency mechanism. This is just like a fire alarm going. When there is a fire, the alarm goes. One alarm goes, second goes, it goes in a series, and there is a reaction. Something similar happens in the body called the adrenergic response. I told you about the physiological limit. Everyone has a physiological limit, and it's different from person to person. Your roommate may have a different physiological limit, and you may have a different limit. So you cannot compare you to the roommates, or you cannot compare yourselves to the best student in the class, because his limit may be different, your limit may be different. And our body reacts in a marvelous way when exposed to the right stress. I was just going through the website of We4Youth, and I found Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's speech in that one. Something which really caught my attention. Something which has caught my attention is him sharing about his experience. He went for a pilot interview. There were 8 posts, and 8 people were chosen, and he came, Dr. Abdul Kalam came 9th. So they told him, if any person is disqualified in the interview, you will get a post. Otherwise, you are going to stay outside. And you know what happened? Nobody was disqualified. Abdul Kalam was out from the pilot's post. And that is the reason why he became a rocket man. He chose rocket science. He chose the other branch because he was not chosen as a pilot. If he was chosen as a pilot, probably it would have been a loss to a country. Often we are unaware of the various stresses that are happening. So I just want to explain stresses a little more in terms of stimulus. Stimulus, which I mentioned to you before as a force, can be different types. One is called a maximal stimulus. Maximal stimulus means a force required to make a complete deformation of an object. Meaning, if you put a maximal stimulus to an iron rod, it just bends. It never comes back to its original position. There is something called a sub-maximal stimulus. It's a force which is less than the maximal stimulus, which will result in some deformation, but not the maximal deformation. There's something called a minimal stimulus. Minimal stimulus is the minimum force required to make a slightest deformation in an object. That means if you put a minimal stimulus, there is some change, and when the force is removed, it just restores to its original shape and position. There is something called sub-minimal stimulus. All these are important. That's why I'm telling you. Sub-minimal stimulus is a stimulus which does not make any apparent change. It's a force which is acting on the object which does not make any apparent change. Let's go into some more details about this. The sub-minimal stimulus, often we are unaware. How many times we have fallen? Have we broken our bones? No, because it was either a minimal stimulus or a sub-minimal stimulus. If it's a sub-maximal stimulus, you almost broke your bone. If it's a maximal stimulus, you're done. So, depending on the stress, we classify it into maximal, sub-maximal, minimal, and sub-minimal. What is the importance? It is so important to recognize the minimal and sub-minimal stimulus, because we will not miss a maximal or a sub-maximal stimulus. We may always miss a minimal or a sub-minimal stimulus, which has given you some trouble, but did not made any permanent change in you, so you ignored it. And the sub-minimal stimulus, often you are unaware. You are unaware. Now there is something called cumulative stress. You know what is cumulative stress? It simply means stress which is adding up. You got up in the morning, you're just about to go to work, you miss the bus. That's a stress. Somehow you caught the next bus and traveled to the workplace, and you found that you are late by 20 minutes. That's a stress. You went to your workplace, explained to your superior, and came to your table and found that 2 of the assignments which you are supposed to do yesterday were missing or not done. So if it is just only the bus, nothing much wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have been an issue. Next one, added to it. Third one, added to it. And in the end, if you come back home with a stressed mind, and if your wife fights with you, that's the end of it. So that's cumulative stress. Stress adding up one on other. Often students talk about back papers. If it's 1 back paper, it's cool. 2 or 3, maybe okay. But what if you have 15 back papers? It's a major stress. That's an example of a cumulative stress. It did not come on one fine day. It just came one after other. So cumulative stress is also important. I told you about sub-minimal stimulus, which adds on to one on other. It leads to cumulative stress, and that can lead to failure. This is another example from physics. This talks about something called a repetitive stress or a cyclic loading. You know, this is an iron bar which is fixed on both 2 ends, and there is a hammer which moves in the middle in a cyclic way. If you put a maximal stimulus here, the iron will just bend. If you put a submaximal, again it will bend. It will not go back to its original shape. But if you put a minimal stress here, nothing will happen. It just goes down, comes back, goes down, comes back, goes down, comes back. But just think about the same minimal or a subminimal force being acted upon this rod 10,000 times. That is a typical example of a repetitive stress. Repetitive stress is very true for us. Every day we are facing such issues. As I told you about this example of man missing the bus and then going and late for work and then missing his assignment and coming back and finding a quarrelsome wife. One on other. Please don't take me as a sexist fellow. The same is true about women also who go for work. But don't feel bad about that. It's just an example. Take it in that sense. So repetitive stress, you may not recognize on day 1. You may not recognize in the end of the month, but taken together, it breaks you. Just imagine children going to school. Every day, one senior guy comes and knocks your head. First day is fine, second day is fine, but end of the week, you are looking for this guy. He's coming. As he is nearing you, the stress is increasing in you. The heartbeat is going up, blood pressure is going up. Same example, a friend calling you for a puff of cigarette. Every time you go to him, he says, come on, da, take 1 puff. What is 1 puff going to do with you? What is 1 puff of this one? It's not going to harm you. 1 may not harm you, but 100 may harm you, 1,000 may harm you. That may lead to problems. So that's an example of a repetitive stress or a cyclic loading, which we need to be very conscious about. This is just an example to show you how a metal breaks gradually. You can see many zones here. This is zone 1, which broke initially, little bit of it. Then again, the stress continued to act. You can see multiple zones, multiple lines. Each one is a microfracture. And then zone 3, finally, one day you applied a small force and it broke. Actually, more than half of it was intact. But then because the initial force had broken the upper part of it, you can see there's an instantaneous fast fracture zone. I just tell you to highlight the importance of a repetitive stress injury. There is something called a repetitive stress injury, and in biology, in human physiology also, it is true. There is something called a cat paw experiment. You know what the experiment does? In a cat's paw, they apply a hammer, a small hammer, which you apply on a machine so that the hammer will go and hit the cat's paw just once. It goes, hits, and comes back. It's given a sub-minimal stimulus, meaning the hammer goes and touches the paw, nothing happens. It goes back, again it touches the paw, nothing happens. But the hammer is programmed with a machine so that it will hit the hand, it hit the cat's paw 1,000 times. When it crosses so many times, there is some ulceration in the hand, in the cat's paw. There are some changes. And the same study is applicable for something which we do every day called using the electronic or the keyboard or the mouse. We are using our fingers maybe 200 times, maybe 500 times, 1,000 or even more every day, repeatedly in the same small position. Probably some people are using only the index finger to type. Some people are using 2 or 3 fingers to type the whole keyboard. You know what is happening? Is a repetitive stress injury. And this stress tells upon you. Your hand aches, not one fine day. After a period of time, it aches. It's not broken once. It's hurting. There is some swelling, some vague fullness in the hands. You go to a doctor, he gives you some medicine, it goes down. Again, you go back to the work, you do the same thing. 100 times, 1,000 times, it causes a repetitive stress and an injury, which can result in various damage to the internal structures. Often, people used to ignore this, but nowadays, people are more aware of this. That is why we have ergonomics, which branch of science which deals with design of chairs. We have ergonomic keyboards. You can see the funny shape of the keyboard, which goes according to your hand shape and then gives you minimum stress. Even then, it is a stress. It is having an effect on you in the long run. Now, we bring you to a very relevant question. Is stress bad? Is stress bad? Is it bad or good? Let me answer it for you. Stress is not bad. What you see in the picture is a beautiful guitar. A guitar has 6 strings. This guitar is beautiful, except that it has one loose or a broken string. Now, if anyone who knows music will tell you, I cannot play this with this guitar. If you tell him, okay, you have 5 strings which are intact, why don't you play? You will tell him, no, I need 6 strings which are stressed up, beautifully tuned. Stress is good, and stress is essential. Good music comes only from a stressed guitar. Now, maximum efficiency comes from a timed exam. Just for example, if somebody is given an exam and says you have to finish the paper within 3 hours, they will write according to their maximum ability. If the same paper is given and ask them, okay, you take this home, you can bring it back within 3 days, write the answers. And if you compare both the answers, you will find that the timed exam which you wrote within the 3 hours was a better one. Because you remember the picture of the buffalo which I showed you. When you are under stress, your adrenaline surges and it gathers all your resources to bring you together to the maximum output. But if you're not stressed, like which I mentioned here, if you have a loose string, it's not useful. The only issue is if you are stretched beyond the physiological limit, you will fail. It can result in a fracture. Any task with a deadline fetches better results. Your boss tells you, okay, get this done within 48 hours. Things are done. If the same task is given, go and do it in your pace, may fetch an inferior result. And it's true about every aspect of life. When you're under stress, in the right amount of stress, you perform better. I'll tell you something about my branch also, orthopedics. Stress in biology. What you see on the right side is healthy bone. This is the cross-section of a femur. It's a model which shows the trabecular pattern inside the bone. You know, the bone contains so many trabeculae which bridges each other and gives strength. On this right side, on the left side is a healthy bone. On the right side, you see an osteoporotic bone, which usually happens when you have a disease or in old age, when the bone becomes thinner. This is a photomicrograph which tells you about the integrity of the trabeculae in a healthy bone and an osteoporotic bone. Now, let me tell you something very interesting. Osteoporosis comes because of disuse. So, for example, a healthy guy, 25-year-old, he had a fracture of the leg. We just put him on a plaster. He was lying in the bed for 3 months. When he gets up, the bone will be osteoporotic. It's not because he had a disease, it's just because he didn't use it. This is proved by a law called Wolff's law, which tells you that wherever there is stress, bony trabeculae are built more. It just simply tells you what you learned in physics is true in biology also. You know, anti-gravity muscles are stronger. And you have heard about tropisms in plants, you know, the negative geotropism, the phototropism. If there is a light source near a plant, the plant goes towards a light source because there is a force and it moves towards that one. And we can understand from these things that stress is good. This is something like the modern cars. You know, the modern cars, they have a lot of sensors. The petrol supply, the air supply, everything to the mixer is according to the computer microchip. And the very same thing happening in the body, where you have more stress, there is more newborn formation. This is a very beautiful example of a person who had an injury of the leg. He was just resting for about 2 to 3 months. You see the extent of the wasting of the quadriceps muscle, the beautiful, massive quadriceps on the right side, and there is a marked wasting of the quadriceps on the left side. This is called a disuse atrophy, which again tells you that stress is important. If you completely abolish all stimuli or stress, what is going to happen is what you see here on the left side. Stress is good. It is essential. It's as we saw in physics, as we saw in biology, as we saw in human physiology. Then what's the problem? Where is the problem? We can say physiological limit. That's why I wanted to stress that point. Know your limit. When I say your limit, I'm not limiting you. There are two things which you should know about yourselves. One is your strength. The other is your weakness. You should know about your strength, very important. All the same time, you should know about your weaknesses also. If you have a car, its engine is good. Its engine is giving you power, but its brakes are also equally important because that is the one which helps you stop. So know your strength, know your weakness. So let's come to the solution. What is the solution that we have? The solution is to manage stress. So stress is important. Stress is essential. Stress is going to be part of your day-to-day life, every day, in any walk of your life, at any age. All that you can do is manage stress. So that brings us to the most interesting question of how to manage stress, how to bust your stress. Step number 1, identify the stress or stressor. Very important, because we say correct diagnosis is right into the treatment. We had a professor who taught us what is the most important part of treating a patient. We answered him treatment. No, he said diagnosis. What is the second most important thing? We said treatment. He said no, diagnosis. Third most important thing and the most important thing is diagnosis. That's why I stressed upon the repetitive stress and the cumulative stress. Often we unrecognize or we ignore the subminimal or the minimal stimuli. How to manage stress? Manage the time, manage the resources, and manage yourselves. Let me explain to you. Are we able to manage time? Nobody is able to manage time because time is same for everyone. 24 hours for everyone. You get it in the new day, it's over within 24 hours. Nobody can manage time. You can only manage yourselves. Can you manage your resources? Maybe, little bit, partly. If you go to a workplace and if you want to change everything there, the boss will say, please clear the place, because you cannot manage everything there. All that you can do is manage little bit of resources for your convenience and facility. So ultimately, it comes down to managing yourselves. Let me make that clear. You cannot manage anything except yourselves. And once you understand that, your day is done. Managing yourselves is called discipline. I know you hate the word. I know everyone hates the word. Even I hate it. But the word simply tells you that it is very important. Discipline. Discipline. How do you identify? You need to look closely at your habits, attitudes, and excuses. You need to recognize possible areas of stress. You need to seek help from a teacher or a peer or a colleague. You need to address it. If you have a problem, have you accepted it? I get up late in the day. I have a problem in that. Okay, if I cannot overcome it, get a good alarm. Otherwise, I am going to land up in problem. Very same way, if I have a bad habit of procrastinating things, get a good reminder. You have beautiful organizers available now, electronic and otherwise. Get it so that you can overcome your weakness, overcome your problem, and face it. Every time what we do, something happens, you blame the other guy. You need to face it. You need to accept that you have done something wrong or it was your mistake. And only when you call a spade, you can solve the issue. This is a very beautiful quote. I know it's a busy slide, but I'll tell you the summary of this one. This was taken from the Minnesota Crime Commission report of 1926. An old one, but it still has relevance. That is why I took it. It says like this. The title is Little Savages. It says like this: every baby starts life like a little savage. He is completely selfish and self-centered. He wants what he wants when he wants it. His bottle, his mother's attention, his playmate's toys, his uncle's watch, or whatever. Deny him these, and he seethes with rage and aggressiveness, which would be murderous were he not so helpless. He's dirty, he has no morals, he has no knowledge, no developed skills. This means that all children, not just certain children, but all children are born delinquent. If permitted to continue in their self-centered world of infancy, given free rein to the impulsive actions to satisfy each want, next is the highlight of it. Every child would grow up to be a criminal, a thief, a killer, or a rapist. I know it's a little sharp, and maybe these days you cannot agree to statements like these, but still just understand the sum of it, understand the crux of it. It tells you that every person in himself is selfish. Every person left to himself is caring for him only. And how do we learn to live in a society is by discipline. And the day you start learning this, life is going to be easier for you and also for me. That's why I said, we need to call a spade a spade. Many times we have the attitude called chalega. Yeah, oh, it's okay. It's okay. No, it doesn't work always. Everything is not chalega. Everything is not it's okay. You need to call certain things as a weakness. You need to get rid of that one. You know, for me, if I talk about myself, cigarette is no problem to me. If 100 people come and offer a cigarette to me, I don't budge. I have absolutely no issue with that. But if one person comes with one laddu, it's a problem because I love sweets. You know, my limit is different from yours. I know I'm diabetic. I know it's not very good for me, but still, if somebody can lure me with a laddu, it means that I'm weak in some areas. So that's why we need to have values, standards, and norms. I don't know if these days these are applicable because people say there are no norms. You can do anything you want. You can do anything anywhere you want. There are no norms. I don't agree with that one because there are norms. When we live in a society, when we live in a community, there are standards which we need to follow. What is your primary role? If you're a student, your primary role is to study. You go to school to study. And then if you don't study, it's on you. It's on you. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. And if you're not doing it properly, and in the end of the day, you come out a failure, nobody is going to support you. You are on you. So know your strengths, know your limits. More important. I'm repeating that one again and again. So to strike it into your mind that it's very important. That's why I bring to you something called a time priority matrix. This is probably, you have come across this before, but it's very important. This is a matrix with 4 columns. There are 2 aspects taken. One is urgency. One is urgency. The other is importance. So you see in column 1, Q1, it is high urgency and high importance. Column 2 is low urgency but high importance. Column 3 is high urgency, low importance. And column 4 is low urgency and low importance. Now, if you can talk about 24 hours of your life, chart out all that you do, it will fall in one of these. How? I will tell you. Important and urgent. Example, house on fire. Your house is on fire. You cannot postpone it for tomorrow. You need to put it down, put it out. Put out the fire by any means. Low urgent, but very important. Do your proper exercise. If you don't exercise regularly, and if you start doing it at the age of 40, it's not going to do much good. You need to do something which you need to do regularly, but you know that it's not urgent. Nobody will come and tell you, oh, come on, do your exercise. Do your exercise. Good for you, good for you. Nobody will come and tell you. Column number 3 is very high urgent, but not very important. Your friend comes and tells you, you have to help me with this assignment. Otherwise, I will lose my job. Yeah, he will lose his job, but it's not at the expense of your assignment or your task. Somebody else's urgency is urgency, but it's less importance to you if you understand it that way. Because what is important may not be urgent. What is urgent may not be important. And finally, you have something which is less important and less urgent. There are so many things. Reading the newspaper, watching a match. Oh, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. If you want to watch a match, it's fine. If you don't watch it, if you have an important assignment, you can watch the highlights later, or you can see the newspaper. There are so many ways in which you can override such issues. So try to classify things into important and urgent And according to that one, you have 4 columns. Try to fill these 4 columns and assign them accordingly. And that will be the right way to face your challenges. Now, there is a practical strategy given here. High importance and high urgency, just do it. No need to wait for it. Low urgency, but important, you need to schedule it so that you will not miss it. I repeat again, you need to schedule it so that you will not miss it. Now, high urgency, but low importance, you need to delegate. It means you can give it to somebody else. You can ask someone else to do it for you, or push back, meaning you can do more, you can take this time for more important things. And finally, the 4th one, don't do it. It may be a little harsh one, but there will be times where you have to take that decision. Time, priority, matrix. I will tell you some practical tips how to face, how to manage your stress. It uses a mnemonic A: avoid, alter, adapt, and accept. I have taken this from the internet, and I have given the reference here. Maybe you can go to that site and get some more details about it, but I'll explain some aspects of it. Avoid means learn to say no. The less important and less urgent things. Maybe you will friend and come and call you. We have a very important match going on, and you have an exam only next week. Come, let's go for the match. Which is important, the exam next week or the match today? Important is your exam. Urgent is the match, but you can decide whether to go for it or no. So you mean to learn to say no. You should distinguish between shoulds and musts. If traffic makes you tense, take a longer route, no problem. If going to market is a stressor for you, do online shopping, find an alternate way. So that's avoid major stresses which can be avoided. Alter is altering the way you approach it. So for example, you have a boss who is always angry with you. You can change the way you communicate. Every time you go to him, he's upset. Maybe you can find an alternate means to communicate to him. More applicable when you have your juniors who's trying to irritate you. Every time some of your juniors, they want to help and they want to sort of not help you. You can use a different strategy to approach them. But your communication should be strong. Be more assertive in a respectful way. If you have an exam and if your friend wants to come and chat about his girlfriend to you, you can be very polite to tell him, my dear friend, you have only 5 minutes to talk. I need the rest of the time for my study. Third is adapt. Reframe problems. Reframe problem in the sense, if you are sitting in a traffic jam, there is no use honking the horn because the vehicle's in front of you. What you can do, just enjoy music in the radio. Adapt yourselves. Again, I'm telling you something which is important. You're not changing anything outside. All that you're changing is your reaction to that. Some people have very perfectionistic attitude. Everything should be done perfectly. If you're late in the office by 1 minute, you're so upset, you're so sweaty, you're so angry and whatnot. No need. If you're late by 5 minutes, what's going to happen? Next day, try to be 5 minutes early. But you don't need to be so much upset about things which are less important. And there are many times there are things which are called good enough. This is good enough. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. In a world with imperfections, we are living in a world with imperfect human beings, including ourselves. We need to adapt to many things. And finally, there is something called accept. Accept means this is something which you have to do forcefully, in the sense you are helpless. You are just forced to a corner. For example, death of a loved one. You lost your dad, or you lost one of them very dear to you. Now, is there a use fretting about it? I agree. I can understand that it's a sad situation. But who can help? No one can help. You cannot help. Anyone around you cannot help. All that you have to do is accept. If you have a serious illness, I know many of my friends, colleagues who are suffering from cancer. They know, they have accepted it. They know that they're going to live only for a few more years, but the quality of the life that they're going to live, it's going to be good. On the other hand, if you don't accept it, if you start cursing yourself, if you start cursing your parents, if you start cursing your society, if you start cursing the government and God, absolutely useless. Now, behavior of other people. If you have a neighbor who is so irritating you, every time you cross the gate, you look at him and curse him. What's the use? Does it help in any way? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. Change your reaction. Choose how you react to this situation, and learn to forgive. Learn to forgive. If somebody has made a mistake, it's our usual Indian Malayali attitude. I will not forgive you in my lifetime. What's the use? What's the use? There is no use not forgiving. When you forgive, actually the healing comes to your mind first and then to that person. So learn to forgive. Let go of anger and resentments. And free yourself from negative energy by moving forth. How you can accept is by sharing. Many times we keep our feelings, pent up feelings to ourselves, and the cumulative stress which I mentioned to you, suddenly one fine day leads to ending the life. So share your feeling. Find a close friend. Find an uncle or an aunt who can listen to you. Find a peer who is helpful to you, or one of your teachers or professors who will help you. Just share with them. Say, sir, ma'am, I have a problem. Can you help? Even seeking help from a professional is very important. I want to tell you something. This is called the Serenity Prayer. The prayer goes like this. It's called the Serenity Prayer. Maybe you have come across in the internet. The prayer goes like this. Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the ability to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, there are two types of things on earth with regards to every human being. There are some things which I can change. There are some things which I cannot change. I cannot change my color. No way. I am just getting depressed that I am dark. What's the use? Absolutely no use. But there are some things which I can change. I'm always sleepy. I'm not always lazy. I can take a positive effort to be more active and more organized. So there are things which you can change. You need the ability to change them. There are things which you cannot change. You need the serenity to accept that. And most of all, the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference. Often we fight with things which we cannot change, and we ignore the things which we can change. And in the end of the day, you're so miserable. You're so miserable. So the Serenity Prayer tells you that there is a way out. Seek help. You can go to a professional. Many times we hesitate because of a social stigma, because people think, he is gone mental. He is psychiatric. He has gone to the psychiatric doctor and there is something wrong with the upper story. No, there is no need to feel bad about it, because many people are in the same boat. Only when you speak to others, you will understand. Many times we say, this is a small issue. But remember, the subminimal and the minimal stimuli, when they add up, they result in failure. And sometimes you say, I'm the only one with this issue. No, you just go out and see. There are hundreds with the same issue, struggling with the same issue. Everyone is afraid to speak about it. And finally we say, what will others think? What if others think? You are the one who matters. If your life is over, what does it matter? Or how does it gain our society or community in any way? So seek help. Incorrect solutions we find to stress One is addiction. Addiction is again like repetitive stress or accumulative stress. One small dose, one puff a day may not matter much, but it's just like this man playing with fire. One day the fire may catch him. Suicide, is it a solution for anything? It's not a solution for anything. You're just adding up problems to your family and your dear ones. You're just adding suffering to your society. Homicide, it's very, very high number now. Numbers have gone up like anything. People, young children who are in their teens falling in love. If the other person says no, take a dagger and go and kill that person. What is happening around us? They're all the wrong or incorrect solutions for stress. Now, if you don't find the right solution, you are going to be consumed by the fire one day. It can be an addiction of a drugs or alcohol or smoking, or no matter what. Addiction is an addiction, and it can lead to various calamities for you and for the society. There's a fire coming. What you will do? Walk away, run away, or flee? The Bible says, flee from evil. Flee from evil. It says, flee. Flee means run away without even looking backwards. Many times, oftentimes, you have to do that. And some things in life are better unexperimented. Some things in better, if you fall into it, it may just consume you. Let us conclude our session here. I have just put 5 take-home messages. One is prioritize tasks. I already mentioned about the time priority matrix. This is something which you can do every day. You just classify your things into the important and urgent, not important and not urgent, and do accordingly. You can make a plan for a year if you want, especially if you're doing a project, if you're doing an educational program, or if you have some assignments or deadlines in your workplace. You can make a plan for 3 months or even 6 months or 1 year, according to your need. Now, prioritize tasks, very important. Number 2 is slow down. Take a break. In between, if you fall ill for a day, thank God. It's good. You've been running too fast. Don't curse the organism. Don't curse the virus. Just thank God and enjoy the time. Have a day's break. Enjoy your family a little more. Very important. You need to have a good, healthy relationship or balance between your workplace and your family. Now you find some exercises or hobbies. I love music. So whenever I'm stressed up, I take music. I take my keyboard or guitar or whatever, and that's a break. Some people love playing games. Some people love swimming. Find an exercise. It's important. It's good for your health, and it's also important to take a break from your stressful life. Fourthly, communicate, connect. I highlight it because it's very important. Many times when we share our feelings, when we share our pent-up emotions, it just gets shared. I love this quote about sharing. It says like this: when you share your joy, it gets doubled. When you share your sorrow, it gets halved or divided. So when you have a good thing to share, it gets doubled or multiplied. If you have a bad thing or a sad news to share, it gets divided and the sorrow goes down. So it's very important to communicate to your peers, to your society, and to your community. Every one of us, we have a personal level. On a family level, we have a circle around us, and we have a society around us. We need to have a healthy interaction with the society so that the healthy relationship is maintained. And finally, trusting in God. I personally, this is my testimony, that my faith in God has helped me to have a better relationship with others. Because I trust in God, I started loving my neighbor. Because I trust in God, I started loving my enemy. So this has really helped me, and I'm sure that faith in God is a very strong support for anyone who is facing stress. In 2020, April, during the first spurt of the COVID, I got COVID. I was working in the hospital and suddenly got COVID. And I came home and found that my wife and son also had COVID. And that is a time when COVID was equated to death. But in spite of all the difficulties, I had a very good support system. We have our church, we have our small fellowship here, we have our friends and a social circle. So we had absolutely no worries. We were just together, enjoying the time. By God's grace, we didn't have any much of symptoms, but we went through that difficult time unscathed. This is because of the support system that I had. So, and I encourage you all to have the support system, in your community. If you have a group of people who will support you in your difficult times, that is something really enjoyable, something really good to look forward to. And above all, ma'am talked about your physical, your mental realms. We have our body, which needs strength. We have our mind, which needs strength. I already mentioned all those. And there is a third realm, which is called the spiritual realm. In India, we have the spiritual realm, which is very, very highlighted in all the religions for that matter. So when you trust in God, when you're able to orient things, so this is my experience. You can disagree with me if you want, but I'm just sharing my experience. Now, we are able to come out of any stress unscathed, only if you have support. So I want to conclude my words once again. Just wanted to add one more word. Thank you very much for this beautiful opportunity. Thank you very much for enabling me to share with you a few things from my experience. And if there is any clarifications you would like to require in any of these slides or any related topics, please feel free. Thank you, Angel ma'am. Thank you, We for Youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. It's an open question to the audience. Is there anyone who would like to raise any questions or any clarifications? Now is your time to interact so that you can clarify what's in your mind. If you can add reactions to your page, we can unmute you so that you will be able to talk. Meanwhile, sir, you were talking about the physiological limits. It's different for every person, isn't it? Now, yes. As a parent, we will be able to identify our child's limit because we have 2 or 3 maybe, or 1. Then we know our child's limit and we push them to a certain extent. But it's not so in the schools or colleges, wherever they are, the institutions. So how do we take it, or as teachers, how do we identify the students' limits? How do we know what is the child's limit? How much can we extract from the child?
Are you a teacher?
Yes.
You must be able to tell me better than.
I used to be. But, I have resigned.
Usually, a teacher knows the reaction of each and every child. Maybe a teacher has about 30 or 40 students in a class. A good teacher will be able to read the heart of the students. If something is giving a bad reaction, in the sense, if a child is not able to repeatedly do something, it may not be just laziness. It may be some organic issue, because these days we are more aware of learning disorders and things like that. So if, there are many issues. One of the issues is poor sight. If a child is not able to take down the notes, we blame them, okay, you're lazy, you're sleeping and all that. Actually, the child may not be seeing. So it may be a simple issue of correction of vision, or it may be hearing. So definitely more than parents will be able to identify those things. But a teacher who sees other students will be able to compare one and see that if a child is deficient in something, there may be an organic issue. If there is an organic issue, there is absolutely no point in blaming the child.
That's
okay,
right.
If somebody is lazy, if somebody is not taking effort to do something which he or she can, it's a different matter. The most important thing is to identify an organic issue like a hearing or a vision or a physical problem like maybe a child has some medical issues, joint pains or something, not able to sit and concentrate and all that. So those things should be understood.
As a parent, we know our child, but their teachers, if they are not able to identify, how are we to handle the teachers?
Yeah, you need to have a one-on-one discussion, because these days I think many schools have a counselor. We can bring the issue to the counselor, and I think the stigma which was there before 10 years, it's not there anymore, because we had the same issue with my son. He had a little bit of problem, so we went to a counselor and we got a certificate from him. So we were able to get some extra time for him because he needed time. He needed extra time. He needed help. So in every exam where the other children get 1 hour, he gets 1 hour and 10 minutes or 1 hour and 15 minutes. So in that way, we were able to help him, and in time, they come out of it.
Right.
So a physical or a I should not say mental. It's like an emotional level. Emotional level where they need a support. If you give the right support, they will come out. This is just like a ventilator. Somebody who is having a problem in breathing, you put them on a ventilator for a period of time, and after some time, they pick up breathing on their own. The very same way. So sometimes the parents are not able to see, say for example, a visual problem, a parent may not be able to identify. But a teacher in the class may be able to identify. If a child is not able to see the blackboard, probably you can come take a book near and ask him, okay, can you read it now? Then he says, I can read. That means definitely there is a visual problem.
Yes.
Like that. So there may be a hearing issue sometimes. And dyslexia is it's quite common now. So some children may be having a problem in understanding concepts. Again, brains are different, because some brains are more abstract brains which grasp more maths and physics. Some brains are not having that capacity to grasp maths and physics too much, but they may have more of social and communicative skills. So basic skills also differ. There is absolutely no point in comparing this child to another child and saying, you are better than this or he is better than you.
Yes.
I think you rightly said the teacher will be the person to identify the real crux of it.
Right.
But we all have a role.
Yes. There's a question here. At times, students have some family issues and they are stressed out because of it, and the student is uncomfortable to talk about it. How can we handle such situation?
Yeah, again, it's the same as I mentioned. The teacher need to be a mother or a father.
What if they're not? That is the problem here.
Yeah, because nobody, even for that matter, I go to my workplace, I don't share my problem with all my colleagues. But if I have a close friend in my place, maybe I'll share with him. So it all depends on the relationship that we have. Because many times, or at least oftentimes, we find school is a place of fright for children. So they're expecting deadlines, they're expecting warnings and things, similar things. So a child may not be able to open up. That's why now many schools, they have counselors. Counselors are usually soft-spoken, probably women who are like mothers.
They spend time.
Yeah, they spend time and they extract things from children. So that's the only solution. Now, even more schools, even government schools, they are moving towards these things, having counselors, and the counselor will be able to help in this aspect.
Yes.
But the important thing is we should be able to identify.
Okay. There's another question, sir. How to avoid overthinking? One of the main reasons for stress is overthinking.
Yeah, this is a very practical issue that we find. We have a saying in Malayalam, I don't know if you'll understand. We will say, Chindichal or Andovumilla, Chindichillengil oru kundovumilla.
If you think there's nothing going to happen.
Yeah,
if you don't think also, nothing is going to happen.
If you keep thinking about it, there is no end to it. And if you don't think about it, nothing will happen. This is just like our mega serials oftentimes. If you don't see a mega serial for 3 months, nothing will happen. After 3 months also, the same characters are there. They're giving the same dialogue. Life is also like that. Some areas which you think, again, this brings our time priority metrics to our review. Because there are some things which are very urgent.
Urgent one, yes.
Very urgent, but not important. And oftentimes we are thinking about these things. And let me highlight our serenity prayer. There are things which you can change. No, I had, this is again something which from my personal life. I had an issue with at my workplace here. It was on the government level. We had a complaint and there was some discussions going on. So I was very upset. So I went to my senior colleague and said, Doctor, I have an issue like this. Then he asked me, are you clear about it? I said, yes. Then stop thinking. And I said, I can't stop. Then he asked me, like, does your thinking is it going to make any difference in the government level? It suddenly opened my eyes. No matter what I do, it's not going to make any difference. It's gone out of my hands. Whatever possible from my side, my explanation I gave in writing, I cannot change it. And their reaction, I cannot decide. All that I can do is rest in God. So that's where trust in God comes. Thinking is okay, but overthinking is often useless and harmless. So you need to get over that habit, because many times we think by thinking we are helping ourselves. Actually, we are not. We are actually losing our potentials and resources. So you need to get over that habit somehow.
Another question there is, does stress result in weight gain?
Yeah, medically, stress does not result in weight gain. Actually, it results in weight loss, because when you have a high adrenaline level, actually it results in weight loss. But what results in weight gain is depression. So if you have a stressful situation, or if you're depressed about it, you're not feeling good in your mind, it's proven medically that depression leads to overeating, because this is one of the things which get you override your depression. Because at least when you're eating, you're not thinking about what is depressing you. So in a way, depression leads to overweight. But again, that can be overcome with some medical help. Stress as such leads to weight loss, because somebody who is stressed up, they need to secrete more of thyroid hormone, which results in more of this adrenergic response, and that results in weight loss. That is why some, jokingly we say some very thin people, they're all stressed up and all that. It's not anything like that, but as a general rule, it can lead to weight loss.
I think that is all.
Can exposure to the life history of great people who have overcome great trials, exposure to positive inputs like the life history of people who have overcome great trials, that can give hope to some certain people?
Yeah, for sure. That's why I mentioned the story of Dr. Kalam. All great people have gone through difficult times. They all had stress. If there is any person in the world who did not have any stress, he has not become anything. That simply means that if you have done something, you may make a mistake and you learn from your mistake. What is more important is how you learn from your mistakes. I think it's only, it was Mrs. Indira Gandhi who was standing before the Supreme Court once, and she was blamed for something which she did. I think it's about the emergency. And she said a very famous quote, only people who do something make mistakes. So if you do something, there is a chance that you can make a mistake, but keep doing.
Yes.
Good evening, Doctor. Thank you for the nice presentation, Doctor. I'm having one question.
Hi, thank you. Go ahead.
What is the role of people at home and in the neighborhood in increasing our stress or decrease our stress?
You answered it. They have a definite role. If your family is not understanding you, it's going to become a big stressor.
Suppose it is from the
are not-
neighborhood.
Sure.
Suppose if it is from the neighborhood, the stress is from the neighborhood, how to handle it?
Yeah, I already mentioned it in the discussion. You cannot change your neighbor's reaction. Can you stop the rain?
No.
Use an umbrella.
Yes.
You cannot change the neighbor's reaction. If you try to go and do that, it may end in homicide. So better not to look at that side. If somebody is giving you negative energy, stay away from that. You cannot change any other, even your boss. If this person is persistently angry, can you change him? No way. All that you can do is change your reaction to that. Every time he is getting angry, you don't get upset. You just laugh at him or smile and comfort and say, okay, sir, I'll do that. Just one word of comfort. Maybe he is more upset than you.
Yes.
You don't understand their pressures. So what we can do is change our to that.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
8 years back, I had cancer. I had blood cancer, stage 3. Prognosis was for only a month. It was a double hit lymphoma. By God's grace, I'm here. So,
So great to hear. Great to hear. Please disagree with me. You are the living example.
It is totally, as you said, it is totally trusting God. That is all I should say. By the grace of God, I am alive, and I am what I am because of what God did for me, and I am here.
I'm glad that you disagree with me. Thank you very much for sharing your experience.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, life is like that,
Yes.
Some people, they succumb to their disease. Some people live long. It doesn't really matter how long you live.
Yes.
What's the quality
how
of
well
life.
you live. Yes, how well you live. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
much. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Yes, sir. Bye.
Thank you.
I think we have come to the end of it. Thank you, Dr. Roy, for the wonderful explanation you have given. It was very kind of you to make us feel very comfortable at the opening itself. You made us feel very much at home so that we could open our minds and listen to you. Even though it was a science class in the beginning, it was very, very informative, and it was it was an eye-opener, I should say. And all the things that you have spoken about, and especially the setting our priorities and having the discipline in life, managing ourselves, that calls for discipline. So thank you for bringing this up, and thank you for calling a spade and helping us to manage stress. Managing stress is not an easy thing, but when we work towards it, we sure all of us can manage stress and move forward with the pressures to the next level, to the next agenda, or to the next part of life, I should say. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you all for the evening. Thank you all participants who participated with your questions and making this evening a very lively session. Thank you, ma'am, Angel ma'am, for organizing this. Thank you for this team, We for Youth, where we organize these things and highlight a lot of things that youth go through. It's not just the youth, I should say. It's all of us. We go through stress, and all of us, we need to manage stress. And Lord, and thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much once again. Thank you, Angel ma'am, for the invitation.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
In spite of your busy schedule, you have prepared and shared with us to help us. Thank you.
It's a privilege, ma'am. Thank you very much.